Welcome to the Huddle. I'm your host, Zachary Lunt. My co-host over here is Dan Amundsen.
How's it going?
Okay, Dan, so women's soccer just lost on Wednesday against UMary. What's your thoughts on this loss?
Yeah, it was a really tough one to watch. You know, we know I'm not a big soccer fan. We've talked about that over the last couple of weeks. But I was able to catch the last end of this one, the last part of overtime, and then the penalty kicks that decided this one. And it was tough. I got a little invested in it. Got a little excited when they started scoring and when they'd make some saves, but it was tough to watch the emotion in the girls. It was fun to see the roller coaster of emotions, but it was tough to watch them lose in the end, especially having a season the way they did to lose this one right away in the playoffs, the NSIC playoffs. They're not done yet, but it was tough to see them lose right away.
Yeah, and for people that are watching that don't know about college soccer, if you're playing in the NSIC division and you lose in their playoffs, you still have a chance of doing the NCAA. You still have a chance to get in that playoffs just because they're ranked number one overall in the NSIC, so they should be fine. They just won't be ranked in the top four. They'll be like ranked 9 or 10 or something like that. So, what do you think how far they'll make it through the NCAA?
Yeah, you know, they got their one loss out of the way. You never see really a big perfect season in any sports ever. Nobody really goes undefeated. They might go undefeated in the regular season, but in the playoffs they kind of peter out. They've got their loss out of the way, so mark it on your calendars. Mark it down right here. I'm calling it. They're going to get to the NCAA championship game, and you're on your own after that.
Yeah, I think for women's soccer, I think they'll win the first round, second round. I just don't know who they're playing against anyways in their first or second round. But second round, I think they'll lose to whoever team they're playing against. But that's my prediction for that. Let's transition into our next topic. We got football going on here. Beavers win 37-24. What's your thoughts against St. Cloud for the win?
Yeah, so that was a good win. They got back on track on Saturday. We talked about how they don't really want these last two losses to kind of derail the season they've had. They've had a good year. They might be out of playoff contention, probably are, but you don't want to see that kind of derail the accomplishments they've made over the year. So they got kind of back on track to end the season strong, and that's a good thing to see.
What's your thoughts about Lukowski? He has had 100-plus rushing yards for the past 5 games. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really cool stat. We know that the Beavers' strength is on the ground. They're not a great passing team, but they run the ball really well. So a lot of credit to him, but a lot of credit also goes to the offensive line. They don't get a lot of credit. They're the unsung heroes, really. So credit to them, but at the same time, credit to Lukowski. He's hitting the holes that the O-line is making for him, hitting them hard, getting yards, being a big reason why this team is being as successful as they are.
Yeah, and I also think the reason why they don't get a lot of talk about them is just because their quarterback and the offense hasn't been producing very much, at least for throwing-wise, and a lot of people will watch the game and pay attention to throwing instead of running and stuff like that. So that's probably why I don't get the credit. On to our next topic. We have hockey, women's hockey. Is the Beavers just doing this bad, or is it the scheduling is why they're doing so bad?
Yeah, so we know they haven't gotten off to the greatest start in the world that they've played. They've had a really tough schedule, and their schedule is only really going to get tougher. It's kind of, you could call it mission impossible if you want. So they played number 1 Clarkson, we know. They've had some other tough games. And then let's look at their schedule going on. So this weekend, you're going to see they're going to play number 2, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Another tough task. And then after that, you get number 4, Ohio State. Then Mercyhurst, they're receiving votes in the top 20. Then you get number 7, Duluth. Then you get Mankato. They've got a good squad. And then you get number 1, Wisconsin. This schedule just gets worse and worse and worse. And sure, these rankings are early, but they're still solid squads they're going to have to play. They're really going to have to shape up their game if they want to win some of these games.
Yeah, and for sure. I would also say that another reason that people would contradict you with is last year's schedule. They played pretty much the same teams except Clarkson, number 1 Clarkson. So they might say that, well, they already won last season. They were doing really good, but it could just be that they lost a lot of senior players because of college. Because right now they have Mac, who's a really good player, but she's the only offensive player that I know that's really good for their team now.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about college sports. It can change so quickly. You know, you can lose a good class to graduation. You could not have a great recruiting class one year, but you could be encouraged by the class you have coming up the next year. Could just be a down year for them. Could just be that their conference had other good recruiting classes this year. It's college sports. It's funny. It can change so quickly from year to year.
All right. So let's transition into the next game. Women's play against Minnesota. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you know it's Minnesota. It's a big school. You think about high school hockey players around the state of Minnesota. A lot of them, you ask where their dream would be to go play hockey. A lot of them would say Minnesota. You want to go down and play historic Mariucci Arena. It's a historic program. So it's a big program, and they're a good team. We saw they're ranked number 2 in the nation. They're a good team. They're going to be tough. We'll see what can happen.
All right. What do you think the women's? You think the women's will win this weekend?
I hope they do. I really, really, really hope they do. I can't see them winning these 2 games.
Yeah, if they do, I think it'll be a split. If they do, I don't think they'll win both. I think they more likely will lose both. But I don't want to be that negativity. I hope they split it. So next up we have men's hockey. What do you have for power rankings? I know it's kind of early, but we kind of want to do like an early WCHA power rankings. What's your list?
So I guess you could call this way too early. You just got to remember a lot of things can change. There's a lot of hockey season left, but right now I've got a number 4 in the nation, Mankato. They're 5-1. They've beat a good Boston team. They split with ranked North Dakota. So right now they've got a good crew. They were good last year. They've got a good crew back from last year. They should be a team to watch this year and keep an eye on. Number 2, I've got number 9 in the nation, Bowling Green. They're 5-1-1. The thing to look at, their 5 wins, each of those have come with a 3-goal margin. They have been scoring a lot of goals. They're an offensive prowess team to watch out for. You're really going to have to step up your defense and your goaltending when you play Bowling Green. Number 3, we're going to see our own Bemidji State. They might be a little high right now, but that win against North Dakota on opening night, that's what keeps them up there for me. And then they tied North Dakota as well. They split with Northern Michigan this last weekend. But I think they stick at number 3. They've got a few things to improve, but I think they're in a good shape for a good season. Number 4, we've got undefeated Lake Superior State. Now they played Merrimack and Alabama Huntsville, but they're 4-0. They haven't lost a game yet. So they haven't played the greatest competition, but whenever you're undefeated, you're going to find a way into the top 5 of any power ranking. And then lastly, coming in at number 5, I've got Ferris State. They're 3-3. They've played more games than most teams. Haven't really played a lot of great teams, but at the same time, they're tied for the most points in the WCHA, so they are technically in that number 1 spot in the standings. Again, really, really early. A lot can change throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your power rankings, and we'll see how it stays, if it changes or something like that for you. Last week's game, you were talking about Northern Michigan. We split 1-1. What's your thoughts on the last loss? Week's game?
Yeah, so Friday, I was kind of hoping, they had that long break. I was really hoping that they'd come out of the gates with fresh legs. I figured they'd be a little rusty. If they could hold them off for the first 10 minutes, I think they could have came out of there with a win. Clearly that didn't happen. They came out, kind of took them that whole 60 minutes, knocked that rust off, got shut out. But they were able to knock that rust off and then come back Saturday and win that game. So now they don't have that long break anymore. I think they're going to be in decent shape for this weekend. Their legs are still going to be fresh, but they won't have that as long a break, so they won't have that rust buildup. Yeah,
for sure. And for people that don't know what the score was, Friday BSU lost 3-0, and on Saturday we won 2-1 with the last-second goal. So what's your concern? Are you concerned about our offense for the Beavers?
Yeah, for sure. That could be a big red flag right now. They haven't been scoring a whole lot. Of course, as we all know, you need to score to win games, right? But at the same time, you look at maybe a big problem in that offensive struggles is their power play. They've only scored once on all of their power play chances. They've had 10 power play chances all season. They've only scored once. You can't let that happen. You have to score when you have a man advantage at least a few more times than that. And if they continue this trend, it's not going to go well for them. On the flip side, their penalty kill's been really good. They've only let up 1 power play goal on 15 chances. That's awesome. They can keep that up. They'll stay in games, but you need to score when you've got that man advantage. Otherwise, it's just a wasted 2 minutes.
For sure. So with our upcoming game for the Beavers, they are playing against Alaska Anchorage. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's hard to say again. But we'll see what they do with goaltenders. Seem to be splitting goaltenders between Johnson and Driscoll. They've been going with one on one night and then the other on the other night. So I think it kind of depends who they start on Friday, who they start on Saturday, is how the team will play. But I think either way, they should be good to go. They've got a couple more games under their belt. Their legs are fresh again, like we've talked about. They had another week of practice. They've got things that they should have worked on, so they'll be good to go. I think they'll win at least one of those games. I hope that they win both of them, but they should be in good shape for at least a win in one.
All right, well, that's all we can do for this week. We'll see you guys next week.